Donald Trump said he's ready for another meeting with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. This as the North Korean leader warns that his country is willing to take a new path if the United States continues sanctions. What might that path be? Let's talk about that with Joel Rubin. He served as Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for Legislative Affairs in the Obama administration, and he's president of the Washington Strategy Group. We'll spend a couple of minutes with him. What do you make of that chances of a second meeting with Kim Jong-un and Trump?
So, Larry, it's quite an ominous message underneath the optimism from Kim, where he essentially is threatening to walk or to not have a productive process going forward with the president. And I think it's something that we need to keep our eye on. President Trump, after the summit last year, was very optimistic, but there are real concerns that North Korea has not moved forward on denuclearizing in a manner that they committed to. So President Trump's in a very difficult position. If he goes to another summit with Kim and doesn't have anything to show for it again, it's going to really put him in an awkward position in explaining how he plans to get North Korea to denuclearize with really any next steps.
So what do you guess that new path might be?
I think the president does need to lean on his team more, and this is where Mike Pompeo can play a significant role, and he needs to get a clear program involved and engaged with the North Koreans, where it lays out a path in clear terms on paper as to what it is that we're both trying to achieve. But he also has some internal housekeeping to take care of as well. John Bolton has taken a harder line, the national security advisor, than President Trump seems to have wanted to go for. Now with turmoil with the new Pentagon chief, the current acting chief with no diplomatic experience, and we don't know who the next one will be, there's a lot of uncertainty. So President Trump needs to get his house in order, but he also does need to ensure that Mike Pompeo does lay out a clear path for how negotiations should proceed. Without that, meetings are just meetings. They're not really productive at getting us to an end goal that we all want.
China play a role in the U.S.-Korea relations?
It's a central player. It always has been, and its strength in these negotiations has only increased because now South Korea is engaging the North more aggressively in terms of ending the state of war, opening up dialogue and channels on a bilateral basis that they have not had before. So where are the leverage points? Well, China is one that does control much of the North Korean economy. Our relationship with China now with the tariffs is under stress. That is something that one doesn't want to see integrated into this diplomacy, but all issues with countries come up when they negotiate. So one can see some bartering potentially related to tariffs if North Korea's nuclear program does continue to be the leading issue for our security in East Asia.
Joel, how do you assess Trump's handling of this Syria situation?
The Syria problem is not a simple one. There's no magic bullet. Oftentimes in Washington, people like to throw darts at the president, be it Obama or Trump, and say that if they'd only done this one thing, like bombed in 2013, everything would have been fixed. That's not the case. And I think that President Trump, his instincts at getting out are the right instincts. What he hasn't been able to do is demonstrate a clear plan for doing so that integrates with a strategy for dealing with Russia, with Iran, with the refugees, with Israel, and all those security issues, and explain it to the American people and to Congress. So the result is that his team is not necessarily sure about what it is that the president wants or how he's going to do it. And that's the problem. There is no congressional authorization. I think it's very much worth repeating. No congressional authorization for troops on the ground in Syria. And Congress probably wouldn't authorize it. So he has space there to explain a new Syria policy, but that's what he needs to do. He can't just do it in independent statements. He really needs to explain it, and I think he'll find there are a lot of progressive Democrats as well as Republicans who would support that policy.
All right, it's 2019. Put your prediction hat on. What's going to be the main focus globally for the Trump administration this year?
This year, nuclear insecurity is going to dominate, and it's been something that's been growing, but it's starting to take on a life of its own. And there are ominous signs. The end of the Intermediate Nuclear Forces Treaty between the U.S. and Russia, the New START Treaty, which should be recommitted to, may not be recommitted to. Again, North Korea, no nuclear deal with Iran for the U.S. and the uncertainties there. Saudi Arabia, what is it going to do as a result with the nuclear agreement, or our nuclear deal potentially with the United States for commercial power and research technology? That's the big issue. That's the existential issue. And here at home, we're spending tens of billions of dollars, estimates of $1 trillion over the next several decades on our nuclear infrastructure. And that's at a time of fiscal pain, and also a defense industry that is looking at fighting terrorists rather than nuclear wars. So we're spending in the opposite direction from where the conflicts are. I think that's going to be the biggest issue, and one that we always have to be mindful of because of the potential downside risk of a nuclear war, which could impact the entire planet.